Canberra.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise this afternoon to speak on the Social Security and other legislation amendment Miscellaneous Measures Bill 2023. The Albanese Labor government is committed to supporting people to overcome barriers to getting and keeping paid work and to ensuring people can access and develop the skills they need for the jobs of today and the jobs of tomorrow. This bill supports this important work by ensuring that legislative authority for government spending on programs targeted towards that commitment is achieved in the best possible way. The former government rushed through the Social Security legislation amendment, Streamlined Participation Requirements and Other Measures Bill 2022, known as the SPR, the SPROM Bill, shortly before the last election. That bill made significant changes to Social Security law, including inserting Chapter 2D into the Social Security Act. While Labor ultimately voted in support of the bill, we raised concerns at the time that the former government mishandled the bill by rushing through that consideration. The changes to Chapter 2D of the Social Security Act commenced in April 2022. The purpose of the changes was to provide more streamlined legislative authority for spending on employment programs. The explanatory memorandum for Chapter 2D, when it was introduced, stated that all Chapter 2D does is provide statutory authority for expenditure. All of the usual processes and requirements for the establishment and oversight of such programs will remain unchanged. While Chapter 2D is achieving this purpose, its operation will be improved through the technical amendments in this bill. This bill ensures that Chapter 2D continues in the best possible way to provide more streamlined legislative authority for spending aimed at supporting Australians to get and keep paid work. Unemployment in Australia remains at historic lows, currently 3.5%. Nearly 500,000 more Australians are in work today than when Labor came to government a little over a year ago. As far as the Albanese Labor government is concerned, when somebody wants a job and gets a job, that is a success. We're also committed to making sure that those jobs are well paid and secure, so workers can look after themselves and their loved ones. And it's why we twice backed a pay rise for Australian workers on the minimum wage, why we backed and funded a 15% pay rise for aged care workers, and why we've introduced a better and fairer bargaining system, and why this week the Minister has introduced a bill to close the loopholes for workers, which is such an important step to ensuring workers are safe, that their wages aren't stolen, and a whole range of changes that will mean so much to so many Australians. However, we know there are still people who want to work and are finding it hard to get a job. The government is working to try to make sure that we can get a better deal for those individuals as well. An improved Chapter 2D will support spending on that important work. So while this bill is, as its name suggests, a miscellaneous measures amendment, sort of a bit of a change that in itself is not necessarily that interesting to speak about, it is very important, and it shows our government's commitment to getting our social security system right. And it's my belief that we as Australians don't take the pride that we should in our social security system. As Australians, we are proud of Medicare and universal health care. We're proud of our tradition of a fair system of wages and conditions for workers. And we're proud of public education. And we recognise that these things are all part of what makes us a relatively egalitarian society when you compare us to somewhere, for example, like the United States. And we are proud of that. We like to think we are the country of the fair go. But when we talk about our social security system in a way that makes people who receive those payments somehow sound undeserving or somehow like they're not trying, we are not doing justice to that incredibly important policy area and what it means to so many Australians and to the futures of people. All of us at some point might access our social security system, and most of us do. And so it's important that we recognise the importance of this policy area and the power that it has to lift people out of poverty and to give people opportunities that they may not otherwise have. Now, of course, having a job is the best way to secure a decent standard of living for yourself and for your family. And I'm sure, this is something that Labor, the party of workers, absolutely believes in. And as I said, unemployment is at, record lows under our government at the moment. But there still are around 1 million people who are looking for work and relying on our social security system. If you go back into our 1 million people receiving the job seeker payment. There are more than that who receive the other range of pensions and allowances and family payments that are provided by that system. If we go back to around the time of Federation, Australia was one of the first countries in the world to establish a universal age pension. And by universal, I mean that anyone could receive it. Obviously, it's means tested. But many other countries in the world have an insurance model where you actually put away for your age pension through your working life, and that determines what you can access. But we had a universal age pension, and soon after that we introduced support for single parents, mothers predominantly, and this was very early after Federation. It was around that same time that the Harvester judgment was given, and we recognised that people should receive through their work a decent amount of money to support themselves and their family. And those two things went hand in hand to ensure that we have a decent standard of living in Australia, and that these things have historically been important, and why Francis Castles coined the term the wage earners welfare state, in that you can look at Australia as a place where the welfare state, which is the welfare system, which is highly targeted, is for those who can't support themselves through a job, and that is very much the case to this day. We actually have one of the most targeted social security systems in the world, which means that the money goes to those on the lowest incomes most in need. And this, the system, while often called complex, there are reasons for that, meaning that it is targeted to those most in need. So I just taking this opportunity on this bill, which is around this important, if not particularly exciting amendment, is to talk about this system, which is critically important to all Australians and to us having equality in our society and making a difference to the lives of so many Australians. So I think that we should take more pride in this policy area. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.